making decisions and signing contracts. That's why he signed the contract he did, to open up more cap space and make it so we can make those big pushes for those big free agents this year. Mm-hmm. One factor we need to keep in mind that I don't think many people are is Mr. Benson. His health is an obvious question mark that comes up from time to time. And God, the man's pushing 90 now, so who can honestly say how much longer he'll be with us? If you look at Sean's good friend Doug Marrone, look what happened whenever there was a change in ownership with the Buffalo Bills. He bailed out and took a lesser job in Jacksonville to kind of go off and live and coach another day, rather, so that he wouldn't have to work with a management that he wasn't 100% on board with. And I think that may be something that Sean is keeping himself aware of here with the Benson family and everything going on as far as removing people from trust funds and inheritance sequences and all these different things going on outside the building that is really probably playing into their decision-making processes.
Well, I think for Drew, and I'm surprised this hasn't gotten mentioned by either of you yet, because we saw it happen with another guy who just retired and won a Super Bowl. Drew has made more money than he needs at this point. Not that I'm against, people making whatever money they want to make, but Drew's no longer needs to be in the NFL to make a paycheck. I mean, he's just signed on to partner with like 69 Dunkin' Donut stores. He's gotten to the Jimmy John's franchise. He's set himself a way to earn cash after football. So then it comes back to the point of you're 6 years old again and you're putting on pads for the first time. He has to be having fun to justify him staying in the league. So when he first made those play into the 40 comments, if memory serves correctly, that was after the 2014 season, after we just went to the playoffs and won in Philadelphia. If I remember right, I might be wrong. Feel free to correct me when I'm done. When you're in the playoffs making a push for the Super Bowl, you're having fun. You like what you're doing. When you go 7-9 3 years in a row, you're not having fun. So I think his mindset, while he might believe he can play, that desire might be starting to wane until he sees this team can start doing more, and to put it in a way that we put it on the show, not wasting his Hall of Fame career. Because I'm sure Drew likes the 5,000-yard seasons and the accolades that he's put up. But at the end of the day, I think his proudest moment's probably winning that Super Bowl. And if you really don't think that your team has that chance at his age, at the point in his career where what is left for him to really do? He's the most accurate quarterback in NFL history. He owns a majority of the 5,000-yard seasons. He has I think it's over 70 NFL records between things like the most seasons with 30-yard touchdown passes or more. He's got like 3 of the top 5 seasons in completion percentages. He's got everything he could want as a player except another ring. And you saw Peyton Manning stay in the league until he was able to do one more, though he had to really squeak it out through injuries, and then he was done. And I think that's kind of where Drew's getting at. I think he really believes in his mind he can play 43, 44, 45 years old if he wanted to. But if his team's not winning, I don't think he really has a desire to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think you're on the money there. Compare the situations of Carson Palmer and Tom Brady, those two guys who are around Drew's age. Brady is still saying that, I'll be playing until I'm 45, 46, because like you said, he's having fun. He's going out and they're winning 10, 11, 12 games. They won 14 games this year, I think. They're in the playoffs every year. They're always in Super Bowl contention. He's always getting nominated to the Pro Bowl. He's having a good time out there. Carson Palmer, on the other hand, he's in that same age group as Breeze and Brady, but his body's broken down. He's tired of getting hit. This very well could be his last year. And they won they went 7-8-1 this year, I think. So whenever quarterbacks get to be in this age, their motivations for still being out on the field can kind of get blown away, like you were saying.
Well, luckily for the Saints, we've got number 9 of the contract one more year, and again, in my opinion, it's the question has to be answered, and how close are they And I think that's the biggest question of this 2017 offseason, if you will. And hopefully the answer is just a couple of players. I know that the Saints have some business of them, themselves they have to handle with Nick Fairley being a potential free agent. I believe Kenny Vaccaro should be due for his as well. Brandon Cooks, they're going to have to pick up the
KB's next year.
KB's next year. Good. KB's next year. So, but you also have to pick up the 5th-year option on Cooks this year. So Nick Fairley's going to be looking for his. You still have to do something about the offensive line. And even if you bring in a guy like Ronald Leary from the Dallas Cowboys and you sign him to play right guard for you, you still have a problem at right tackle that needs to be addressed. And you can't move Andres Pete. It's clear cut at this point. He can't play on the right side. He has to stay on the left. So I think, addressing the O-line may be one of the better ways to go. In fact, as crazy as this is going to sound to you guys, and you can definitely, smash me for it, the Saints need to take a page out of the book of the Oakland Raiders. They went all in this offseason, and actually, had it not been for Derek Carr getting hurt, I believe they would have been the team to beat, even above the New England Patriots, because I don't think the road to the Super Bowl would have went through Foxborough had Derek Carr not got injured. So I think the Saints need to take a page out of the Oakland Raiders book. Spend the money on offensive linemen. They got Asamali this offseason. Also tried to go for Sean Smith to play corner for him and help him out. I mean, they went all in to revamp that team, and it paid off big dividends. I think the Saints need to take a page out of their book and do the same. Sign yourself a good offensive guard. Sign yourself a cornerback, and of course, you got to re-up the guys that you want to keep on in-house. But Willie Snead is another guy who I think is up for a contract as well right now. So take care of your business first, and then go get what you need.
Well, I think, and I went and looked it up just to make sure I was right, is Drew Brees said that 45-year-old comment July of 2014. So that's the season they just came off losing in the divisional round against the would-be Super Bowl champion Seahawks. And I think if you're a playoff team in the NFL and your loss came against the Super Bowl winners, you've got to be pretty high coming into the next season in terms of your thoughts on potential. So, I mean, I think that just kind of plays into what we were talking about. It's easy to say, yeah, man, we're going to play another 6 years in the NFL if we can keep this state of euphoria going. But, then when you get here, and even look at some of us, and me and Sean talked about this for probably 20 minutes, the first half of the show, that level of excitement and stuff, we've kind of lost. I mean, I was telling him, I want the Saints fan base not by losing. I don't want us to have to get there by trudging through the mud and mire again, but I miss the magical that was the Saints' first playoff win and how amazing the feeling was, not like just internally as a person, but like around us, like as a community, as Saints fans, that everybody felt when we got there and that we were all in it together to win it. And that was our Super Bowl moment before we thought the Super Bowl was possible. And now we're reaching 7-9 and we're just looking at it with such disgust and disappointment, and in a way for the fans, we're kind of in that same spot Drew Brees is in. We've had that peak now and we've lost that love and feeling, and we've got to get it back. And I think Drew Brees has got to get it back because I don't think he really cares if he threw 5,000 yards, 70% completion. I think he would gladly throw 25 interceptions and 15 touchdowns if somehow, some way that turned into a Super Bowl. And as you said, the Raiders did a great job, and don't sleep on them, man. I mean, Derek Carr, I've got a friend who plays for the Raiders. And I know I say that so many times, but that's one of the only teams that I get to hear things from that isn't just other bloggers talking to each other. Derek Carr is really trying to push to be in the playoffs if they win this upcoming game. So keep an eye out for that. And several doctors have tweeted that it's very possible for him to make that return. So keep an eye out for that. But they were my team to win the AFC just because they've managed to do. I mean, if you formulate a how to rebuild a franchise like playbook, the past 3 years for the Raiders, follow that mold, and you're probably going to be back in the playoffs pushing for a Super Bowl. I mean, they've done everything right. They addressed every level of their team, not just front office and coaching staff, but every facet of the offensive line, the defensive line, linebackers, running backs, quarterback, corners. They did everything while also bringing in guys like Woodson, the mentors to really teach these young guys where they need to go to get the Super Bowl. I mean, they they made the perfect mold and then they cracked it. So I'd love us to do that. And if you think about it, our past 2 years, we've done a lot of those things. The drafting has gotten so much better. The free agency signings have been smarter. It's now you've got one more year. Can you finish the job and do your job, as Sean Payton loves to say, or are they going to slip up one more time and we see all that potential just go down the drain and we start the rebuild?
Hopefully, they can take a page out of the Raiders book and do some of that stuff, man, because, as you stated, the Raiders pretty much addressed every single need they had in the offseason, whether it be via the draft or via free agency. They brought in a Bruce Irvin to help out with their pass rush to go alongside Khalil Mack. Is this sounding familiar to any Saints fans out there? They had a need at pass rusher, and they addressed it in free agency to pair with their already great pass rusher. I'm not sure if you guys know this guy named Cam Jordan, pretty good pass rusher in his own right, who needs somebody opposite of him. Wouldn't it be a great move if Saints decided that they were going to make that move? They also needed an offensive player, offensive lineman. They brought in Kalichi Asamale, brought him in. He can play guard or tackle. He's playing guard for him right now. So it's a lot of the same holes that the Saints have, that the Raiders had, that they addressed. And we've seen the difference up close and personal when Jack Del Rio goes for 2 and all of a sudden instead of the Saints being 1-0, they're 0-1. I just think if the Saints handled their business this offseason, as well as, take care of the guys that they have to, this is a team that can contend, health permitting, of course, because we've seen what Oshner has totally done to the Saints, but that's a whole other story.
Don't get quiet on us, John. Come on, chime in, man. This is your stage, brother.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man. Just looking at who's out there, looking at what's available. It's going to be real interesting to see how they approach the off season. What positions they look at, what players specifically. I know the big ticket name on everybody seems to be thinking about is Chandler Jones with Arizona, formerly with New England. And I'm sure you guys are going to get more into free agency and the draft and all that later on. But Jones is going to get probably $17 million a year, and that I'm all for the Saints in making these smart investments, going for it, and bringing in these big time players. But if you got $30 million in cap space and you spend more than half of it on one guy, and then you still need cornerbacks, then what do you do? So so long as they do have a plan they're sticking by and they're bringing in the right kinds of players to the team that they've built, I'm all for it. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do from here on out.
Because you mentioned it, and it's 9:43, which still gives us a little room to talk about it. Why don't we go ahead and start talking about free agency? Because you mentioned guys like Chandler Jones, and I've told other people this. While we have $36 million, keep in mind there are other teams in the NFL who've got around $70 million. So while we've gotten out of the hole, we're not exactly free to spend as much as we think we should. But, there's a lot of pass rushers. The only reason I don't think guys like Chandler Jones will get that much, with the exception of if the Cardinals pay him that, is because there's so many pass rushers available this offseason. The market should stay relatively low because guys are going to be like, look, somebody else pays you that much, fine. We'll just go get this guy. We'll go get Shiard. We'll go get Ingram, things like that. Now, I got this from a couple of one blogger and one really die-hard San Diego fan, because I've really been trying to dive back into this Melvin Ingram thing, because I personally don't view him as the go-to target at pass rusher. And because so many other people are different than me, I've really tried to take a step back, look at it from, a neutral perspective and get a better opinion. But I learned this in my research. More often than not, and I'm going to quote the fans, the owner of the San Diego Chargers is about the biggest penny pincher you're ever going to meet in the NFL. He doesn't like spending money on big free agents, including his own free agents. And they cited a long list of people that San Diego has let walk and not re-signed, including pass rushers. I thought because of the amount of money, which San Diego's, I think, has about $25 million in cap space, guys like Ingram were going to be an instant re-sign. And through talking to these bloggers and fans, I'm starting to think that there might be a possibility of nabbing him simply because San Diego doesn't want to dump the money. And it's hard for us to imagine that because we just see these owners as these billionaires who don't